Now, this is one that I think is getting a lot more attention these days. So when I first was a veterinarian, pretty much all dogs were spayed or neutered by about 6 months of age. And so the question is that a myth these days, or is it still dogma that stands? So why do we even spay and neuter dogs and cats? Well, some data from the shelter medicine statistics between 2015 and 2018 says that 1.6 million dogs and cats enter shelters annually. And of that 1.65 million, 1.5 million are euthanized. And so the early spay and neuter programs were put into place to try and address this carnage that happens in the shelter system. So I wanted to ask the question, how many of the AMC patients are spayed and neutered? So I had our systems administrator look at the data on how many pets are spayed and neutered, and I looked over the past 2 years. And you can see that we had 14,000 male dogs, 68% neutered. We had 12,000 female dogs, 75% were neutered. Of the almost 5,000 male cats, 87% were neutered. And of the female cats, there were about 4,000 and about 84% were spayed. So what you see is probably reflects the fact that male cats that aren't neutered tend to spritz really smelly urine to mark their territory. And so intact male cats are not the most enjoyable pets because they tend to smell really bad. So male cats clearly are on the top of the neutering list. Female cats higher than female dogs as well. And that's because when a female cat goes into heat, they are rolling, rubbing, crying, wailing, looking for a boyfriend. And that goes on all breeding season unless the female cat finds a boyfriend. So that kind of behavior is not very fun for the family. And so I think that feline behavior probably explains why these cats are neutered more often than their canine counterparts. Okay. Now, I don't know why it doesn't want to go forward. Oops, too far. Okay. So the advantage of spaying and neutering is that for females, there's no heat cycle, and you don't have uterine and ovarian diseases because the ovaries are removed, and most uterine diseases that happen are related to hormones that come from the ovaries. And then, of course, obviously, no puppies or kittens. And female dogs and cats that are spayed early have a decreased risk of mammary cancer. In males that are neutered, they don't mark, and male cats are big markers. Male dogs will still mark some. And male dogs and cats, when there's a female in season, will behave sometimes very badly. I had a patient once that dug a hole through the plaster in the wall towards the next apartment, and it turned out there was a female in heat in that apartment, and he was looking to have her, and he did everything he could to get there. So male behavior when there's a female in season can be really annoying. Because the testicles are removed when a male dog is neutered, then you don't have any testicular diseases. And male dogs, but not cats, will have prostatic problems where the prostate can get very enlarged, can get abscessed, can get infected. And it sometimes is big enough that the dog is uncomfortable and strains to poop. So it is, there are distinct health benefits to animals that are spayed and neutered. In this particular study that was looking at inherited diseases and neutering, what they found was really, in my mind, very interesting. And that is that spayed and neuter dogs were less likely to be hit by a car, less likely to bloat, and less likely to develop a heart muscle condition called cardiomyopathy. And that I can kind of get the hit by car thing, because animals that are looking to mate will go to great lengths to find a partner. And so they're out roving and roaming, and then they get hit by a car. I don't really have a good explanation why there seemed to be this apparent decrease in bloating and heart muscle disease or cardiomyopathy in neutered animals, but it was kind of an interesting finding of this study. So the benefits of spaying and neutering extend beyond reproductive issues. Now, the other things that spaying and neutering have been associated with that are on the negative side can be shown here. So this is a female dog, and this little device right here is an implanted device called a hydraulic occluder that helps to deal with this dog's urine dribbling problem. And so urine dribbling is associated with early spaying of female dogs. This is the front leg of a dog, and you can see here's bone, and then all of a sudden the bone looks kind of fuzzy, and then there seems to be some missing bone here. And this is a dog that has a tumor in its leg called osteosarcoma. And that tumor has been associated with dogs who are spayed and neutered at younger ages. And then this is a knee. So this is the thigh bone and this is the shin bone. And this is a knee that's been orthopedically repaired by insertion of this little plate. And this plate is the method by which we repair ruptured cruciate ligaments in dogs. And again, ruptured cruciate ligaments have been associated with spaying and neutering in dogs. The other thing to keep in mind is that when dogs are spayed and neutered, their metabolism goes down. And so a lot of people blame spaying and neutering for their dog's overweight and obesity. The reality is they're just getting too much food that they don't need. But a lot of people don't realize that they need to cut that food back when the pet is spayed and neutered to avoid them gaining a lot of weight. So because there have been these associations between disease and spaying and neutering, people have started to look at trying to make recommendations. And it's very, very, very difficult to make these recommendations, because if you spay and neuter early, there are certain advantages. And then if you wait, those advantages go away, but you gain other advantages by waiting. And so this particular paper looked at dogs in 5 weight categories. So they small, medium, standard, large, and giant dogs. And they said, how old should this dog be for us to avoid joint disorders like cruciate ligament rupture and certain cancers like osteosarcoma and lymphoma? And then this chart makes recommendations. So here, males on this side of the chart, females on this side of the chart. If you have a small or medium dog, it says choice. And what that means is the owner can choose. There's no medical advantage to sooner or later. Then if you have a standard size or a large breed dog, then they recommend waiting till a year or more of age. And in giant breed dogs, they talk about maybe waiting as long as 2 years before the dog is neutered to protect them against joint disorders and cancers. And that's far easier in my mind in the male dog than in the female dog, where some of my clients that have tried to follow recommendations like this find the heat cycle of the female dog is problematic. So again, in small and medium females choice, owner's choice as to when to spay them. Um, Beyond 11 months if it is a standard or large breed dog. And then this giant has an asterisk by it because the data wasn't clear enough that they could check this 2-year or more box, but they were kind of leaning towards doing that. And so that's why that asterisk is there, is that they say, well, if you could wait. But if you have to wait till the dog is 2 years old, then you've gone through probably 4 heat cycles. And for some people, that is a real challenge. Now, this is another paper that came out, same authors, and very similar, asked a very similar question. And they said, in 35 breeds of dogs for which we have enough data to comment on specific breeds, at what age should we spay or neuter those dogs to protect against joint disorders, cancer? And in this paper, they added urinary incontinence, which, remember, I said is a problem in some female dogs spayed early. And in this particular study, I can't recreate it all on a slide because it's 35 breeds of dogs, male and female, but there are recommendations for particular breeds as to whether you should spay them, not at all, more than 6 months, more than 12 months, or more than 23 months of age. And so the link to this paper will be in the materials that Michelle said she would be sending the attendees tomorrow. But this is a something that I look at when people are asking for my advice about optimal time to spay and neuter a dog. So then this is maybe sort of kind of a myth. Dogs maybe shouldn't all be spayed and neutered by 6 months of age. And so this is a point where it's really important for you to talk to your veterinarian about when your dog should be spayed and neutered, because they will be the ones to know most about your particular dog, and also to keep up on the latest changes in the research into this area. But what is clear is there is no longer one size fits all for a recommendation.